Hey there, welcome to episode 93 of the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We're recording this late in the evening of Friday, December 6, 2024. I'm going to have to get used to 2025 soon. Today's topic, eat, drink, and be entrepreneurial. Hint, we're not talking about tech so much today. If you are new to the program, the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program is about the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the Greater Vegas area and beyond. Impresarios, spelled with two S's, are our idea makers, people who make things happen, have ideas to do so. Quick note on the inspiration of the name, in case you're curious. Cafe with two F's, Cafe Centro in San Francisco, where startups start. It's where Jack Dorsey was sitting with his laptop one day working on Twitter before it became Twitter. Not that I'm worshiping Twitter, but that's an example that everybody would be aware of. Located in South Park in San Francisco. It's a cool little coffee shop. I've been there a couple of times. Sadly, no longer operating. That's a recent development, I think, in the last year. And it doesn't look good for a comeback. And Genius, based on the Genius lunches we used to have during the Downtown Project days. Combine those, Cafe Genius, and then Impresarios. That's hopefully you. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description within the show notes and the summary, which I will read to you, and a few links. There are a few today, the 2 shameless self-promotion links for your host. That's me. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 or 6. 6 links. I had to scroll. So let's begin so we can end. This is the week after Thanksgiving. You're all still getting over the food shock, perhaps, or the sticker shock, more likely. Today's summary, the so-called startup scene of Greater Vegas is focused, overly so according to some, on technology and the notion that we will be the next Silicon Valley. What if the startup scene includes those who want to open their own restaurant, coffee shop, bar, or something else that is not the Next FAANG company? That's F-A-A-N-G. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, but is instead something they have always wanted to do. Imagine that. The links for today's episode, shameless self-promotion, as I mentioned, the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo link. Don't forget the Buy Me an Update audio micro update appears right there on the site in the post section, posts. I post an audio there Monday mornings. So far, we're on episode 2. There will be an episode 3 coming up. This is a way to provide a little micro update from the week previous. And if eventually some interesting things start to happen across all of my audio programs or other projects, I can just say it in one place. And it's a little extra bonus for people who visit the buymeacoffee.com site. Completely free. There's no need to spend any money at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, nor at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. I use these as engagement tools. They are commonly used by open source developers and people working on projects. These are well-recognized brands, Buy Me a Coffee and Ko-fi. Coffee. I say Ko-fi to differentiate it, so it's not mistakenly Coffee. That said, I've started adding little micro textual updates, not quite tweets, but brief text updates on the Ko-fi site. So ko-fi.com does enable audio, but it's not as flexible as Buy Me a Coffee, and there we are. Visit those, keep up with, I have some links to all of my audio programs, various GitHub projects, my favorite coffee beans, and so on the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page. So do check that out if you have a chance. And again, no obligation to spend any money. If you do contribute through either of those portals, all monies through those do go towards coffee or coffee accessories. It is what powers these endeavors. The Office of Small Business Advocacy in the Nevada area, osbanv.com. That should be like .org, I think. Who knows? It is run by the Lieutenant Governor. I have no idea if they've been successful. They're a small business advocacy group. They try to connect small business, I suppose, and hope that things go well for them. Yeah, hopefully I will be reaching out to them into 2025 to see how we can integrate what they're doing or at least become better informed. Maybe you already know what they're doing and I'm the one not knowing. the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, lvcva.com. Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority. You can go there and find several pieces of information. The LVCVA is a part of the Formula One race project with the Formula One entity, with Clark County. I think those are the big players. So LVCVA does have a business component. They enable business in some ways. They also, perhaps most interestingly for small business, they also keep track of various statistics for visitors to the Greater Vegas area, tourism visitors, right? Tourism, conventions, that's right there in the name too. So you can visit the research section of the website. The research link is at the top of the page. It's not at the top navigation bar, but it's just below that. So you can go to the research section and you can learn visitor stats. You can see where people are visiting from, how many, and so on. I think we're still on track for about 40 million visitors for the 2024 calendar year. They break it down into various demographics, and they do month by month, and they do casinos, winnings. Those are the important things. So you can check that out. I do throw around the 40 million visitor number frequently, and so that's where I get it from. Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, the LVGEA, is a public-private entity that is essentially an outside sort of driver of economic development for the Southern Nevada region, the Las Vegas region. Las Vegas is a state of mind, not merely an administrative boundary on a map. The LVGEA.org website itself has resources for businesses. I'm not advertising. I'm just saying what's out there. Resources for businesses, various, like a directory of sorts, but it's not really helpful. It's links, but that's about it. It's a collection of links broken down by focus area: finance, accounting, employee resources, etc. So you can check that out if you're looking. The LVGEA does appear to be focused on having companies move to the Greater Vegas area. I believe they focus mostly on tech companies. They did hire a senior VP of ecosystem development, I suppose, for entrepreneurs, but it's the job description itself was heavily focused on technology, the number of software engineers that would relocate or become available in the population, the talent pool, the number of exits, the amount of funding, and so on, really slanted towards the tech scene, we're going to be the next Silicon Valley chant. But still, it's a resource. Check it out. This is not an exhaustive list of resources, by the way. Somebody really should publish like an asset map with these resources and others. That should sound familiar. I've talked about this already. It's in progress. Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada, edawn.org, EDAWN.org. I mention that because if you look at Reno is proximal to Silicon Valley. If you are in Silicon Valley and you want to make a road trip to Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, and you want to wander over to Reno, the UNR is probably more Silicon Valley-ish as far as tech and tech programs and so on. Not that Reno is the next Silicon Valley, but they are closer. The Greater Vegas area is known for the fun economy, really. If you ask anyone on the planet, and I've done this in my travels several years ago, when I was traveling 80% of the time or so, Vegas has its impression. It's one of the top, destination city brands in the world. It has a reputation. Its reputation is not a city of innovation. It's a city of fun, the fun economy. See how that works? Reno, the biggest little city, or is it the smallest big city? I think it's the biggest little city in the world. They also have a fun economy of sorts, but I think they have a little bit more, due to that proximity, a little bit more sort of sensibility about a startup scene or what. And this is judging from afar. I've not been to Reno in many years. I should change that. One of the reasons I'm linking to that, though, is that I will bring up again. I've linked to this before, and in fact, an early podcast, probably like episode 10, I think it was, actually had a discussion, almost 2 hours that we recorded, another about 2 hours that we didn't, with the publisher, the researcher and publisher of the Empowering Entrepreneurship in Nevada final report that is available at the link that I've provided here. It's a PDF, for better or worse. Mo Collins, so we had a long chat. The document itself is interesting. It covers the entire state, and then Washoe County, where Reno is, and Carson City, and that's where EDON operates. And then Clark County, where Las Vegas and the LVCVA, the LVGEA and the LVCVA operate. And then rural Nevada, so the rest of Nevada, for better or worse, rural Nevada. It's an interesting document. I doubt very much that anyone has read it. It's already 2 years old, coming up on 2 years old. It was the research was done between January and March 2023. It was published in April 2023. So it's getting to be about that time to do another research project. Ongoing, in my opinion. Introduction to Communities of Practice. I'm just going to stick this in here if you're curious. The founder is Etienne Wenger. The website is Wenger Trainer. So WENGER -trainer, TRAYNER.com /introduction-to-communities-of-practice. Hopefully you'll find it. If you type in Communities Practice Wenger, WENGER, you'll probably find this website. Or you can click on the link if you are able to access the episode description for this very episode. I'm putting that in there because at the end we'll touch on this. It's always good to know. So first, let's talk about diversity and resilience of our economy in the greater Vegas area. In these post-pandemic times, if I could speak, there is an active interest at the government, at the state and county and local government levels in diversifying the economy of Nevada and its component parts, counties and cities and so on, to make the fun economy one part of an overall economy that is resilient to shocks like shutdown or economic downturn, for examples. Tourism can decline if there isn't so much free money burning a hole in our pockets to go hit Vegas and hit the craps tables. This is particularly true in Southern Nevada, the greater Vegas area, where there is where there's a reliance on the fun economy. And so a certain amount of resilience is needed. We don't want the empty streets of the Strip to be commonplace. Unfortunately, there seems to be something of a rush to get there, in my opinion, and the opinion of others too, with a non-trivial level of energy going towards importing companies and people to fill the talent pool and enable a notion that the greater Vegas area is to be the next Silicon Valley, Hollywood 2.0, and maybe the home of the next biotech research center. I don't know what city would be the research center, but there is a push towards surrounding the medical school resources at the university with some biotech research. We'll see how that goes. There is a drive to build a startup community or a startup scene or a tech scene, call it what you will. But in fact, the greater Vegas area already has an existing entrepreneurial ecosystem and entrepreneurs starting businesses of all kinds. So there's this notion that there is a building of a startup scene or a tech scene, maybe a tech scene, but I think there's already a startup scene. These businesses and other entrepreneurial endeavors may not be on a path to be the next Facebook or Netflix or Amazon. Those are the FAANG companies, 3 of them. But they are startups nonetheless. Some people argue that startups are tech companies that are looking for venture capital funding and whatnot. These are people who've probably never started a restaurant or been involved in a family restaurant or a retail business or worked with customers and so on. The challenges are nearly the same, I have to be honest. Our economy, I'm going to be having one of those reading issues for the evening, I suppose. Did I say it's 9:40 p.m. on Friday? I don't think I said the time. So it's later than normal. This whole week I've been recording in the evenings as I get back to the normal grind. Our ecosystem exists, but is it okay? The study done by Mo Collins in early 2023 there was some selection bias in the survey sample population, the population survey population. Either way, there was some selection bias just in the way they were chosen to join the survey group. My opinion. I have not discussed that with Mo. They touched on a variety of indicators and possibilities, including suggestions regarding the state of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Nevada, so statewide, and then with focus on the Washoe and Clark counties and rural Nevada on the whole. The population actually is distributed like that. Clark County is bigger, Washoe County is smaller, and rural Nevada makes up a very, very small fraction. So that's not unreasonable from a population standpoint, population distribution standpoint. There is a startup scene beyond the tech in Clark County. If you believe, as I do, that the term startup can apply to most, if not all, entrepreneurial endeavors. I kind of touched on this already. Opening a new restaurant, especially if it's your first one for someone just getting started, can be every bit as challenging, maybe more so, than starting a software company in a coffee shop. It became trendy at some point, and remember, I was in Silicon Valley for 13 years. It became trendy to say, I have my startup, and sit at a coffee shop with either by yourself or maybe a friend or two. You got your laptops, you got your earbuds in, you're drinking coffee and hacking away, making your websites and whatnot. Sure, that's a startup, but so often the people that are sitting in that coffee shop making their startup are sitting in a startup that is a coffee shop. And that is sometimes lost on people, but I do want to make it clear, as far as I'm concerned, if you open a new business, and especially if you're new to it, or you're taking any risk of some sort, a startup doesn't have to be only some web business, some tech startup. I think if you're starting a company, it is a startup. Just ask yourself, is this a startup? It sure feels like it. Note that you will be saying that when you're very tired and probably concerned about cash flow and customers and bills, the usual. There is more attention placed on the tech side of late here in Greater Vegas because that is where the big dollars are. People with money are already circling the Greater Vegas area, pondering the possibilities. I'm thinking about you, Vegas Tech Summit, with favorable business conditions and tax laws for making the most of returns on investment. Now, by the way, when they say that, because this has been said, the business conditions here are great, the tax situation, there's no income tax and business taxes are low. Housing is ironically lower than Silicon Valley, even though it's almost pricing people out already from the service industry and the hospitality industry as part of the fun economy. But it's favorable business conditions as long as you are willing to move your employees. The talent pool in Vegas may not be what you're expecting. I'm sorry to say that, honestly, but I think some people will need to hire from outside. It will take a while. Our talent pool is growing in breadth and depth, but I think there will be a need to gentrify the area by relocating people from talent pool centers, if you like. Hey, let's move our company from Silicon Valley to Vegas. LVGEA is all for it. They have resources for you. They'll help you out. I don't know exactly how, but that's what they advertise. Relocate your business to Vegas. Become a local. Bring your friends and all of your employees and all their family. I think there will be some unintended or maybe intended consequences there. So it's something to think about. So they're already circling though. These people, they want to make the most on the returns on investment, of course, the possibilities in tech, which is what they're familiar with. These money people are most familiar with the extraction of value from tech startups. It's what they know. It's what excites them. If you said, hey, do you want to be in on a chain of restaurants in downtown Las Vegas? They might scoff at this, but that was a component of the next topic, the downtown project. I relocated to Las Vegas from Silicon Valley 11 years ago, just as the downtown project was beginning to bloom, to get some attention, if you like. I was never an actual part of the DTP. I only watched as a spectator. But my arrival from Silicon Valley and my employment with Intel, I was the only Intel employee in Nevada. Intel Corporation, the chip company, the one that's probably going to go out of business any day now, did allow me a certain amount of access to the cool crowd. Like, oh, you're the Intel guy. Sure, step this way. Come on in. Oh, you moved from Silicon Valley to Las Vegas. That was an odd thing at the time. What I found interesting was, despite my personal leanings towards tech with my background experience in Silicon Valley for about 13 years and my then current employment with Intel Corporation, the natural leaning into tech by a tech-oriented person like Tony Hsieh, the late Tony Hsieh, unfortunately died in November 27th, 2020, so rip Tony, was not the default, but was a part of a rather broad and ambitious development project, the Downtown Project, to make startups happen in the downtown Las Vegas area. This included restaurants, bars, retail, service businesses, and technology. And as we all know, some tech sort of creeps into a lot of things, but a normal everyday restaurant, the Eat restaurant, is sort of infamous at this point. I think it's still operating last time I was downtown. Bars, of course. Vegas is known for its bars. Retail establishments in the downtown Vegas area. Now, most of the Downtown Project, as its name implies, was focused on downtown initially. They broadened their investment reach at some point. I don't know if they waited too long to do that. But all of these were in the mix. Was it executed perfectly? Arguably no. Was it a learning experience we should be extracting lessons from? Absolutely yes, and I don't think we've done a good job of that. One of the implementation details of the Downtown Project, which I would have argued against, was its insular nature. Not isolated, but definitely focused on its participants as a micro-community, the return on community notion, which was not a great idea, arguably. A silo, if you like, that by many accounts kept to itself too much. I know directly from my interactions with UNLV specifically and my familiarity with Downtown Project that connections to UNLV and other academic talent sources, that is, why not reach out to UNLV for hiring, right? And interfaces to business and innovation beyond the downtown footprint, so other areas of the greater Vegas area, were limited. I would have gone in the opposite direction. This is the sort of thing we can discuss and learn from. Hang on. Possible lessons to learn from, as I will state them now, but there are more. So hold that thought that we can learn from, but I'm going to inject a possible lesson. The Downtown Project retrospective is still on the table. I've talked about this previously. The idea is to actually ask people who were there, who took part in the Downtown Project in any capacity. I'm only a spectator, to find out what worked, what did not, and what lessons might be applied to the current startup scene, which happens to be centered on, but is not limited to, the downtown area, as luck would have it. So these are people who already been there, done that. So why are we not including them in a discussion about these things, if they're willing? I suspect that many will not be willing. That the Downtown Project was not focused entirely or overly so on tech, but rather on a mix of areas, including the retail, food, beverage, and services, and so on, not to mention events and the project itself. So the Downtown Project was sort of its own project. Makes it an interesting local and recent case study in diversifying an economy without leaving out or placing at risk existing economic players. That is, you don't need to crush non-tech businesses through gentrification and change in focus, right? And the Formula One example, I use it now frequently. When you focus on Formula One and you don't have the same amount of concern as you should for small businesses, those small businesses will begin to suffer and they will sue. There are multiple lawsuits. There are still I think it's 3 from last year, and I think there's 1 filed so far for the 2024 race. These are small businesses saying, hey, you are screwing us over. Pardon the language. You're screwing us over, though. You're changing traffic flow. You're changing foot traffic flow. You're impeding access to our businesses. You're creating business conditions that put us and our future at risk for the sake of this sporting event. So when you lose focus on the bigger picture and you zoom in too much on, we got to be the next Silicon Valley, you can, possibly will, place smaller or existing non-tech businesses at risk. And that's something to be completely aware of on both sides of the coin. That is, the small businesses should know about this also. If we watch the news today and 1 year ago, I already kind of said this. That's what happens when I write my own notes and then I have those ideas already. We can see a great example where the interest in the professional sports component of the fun economy fuels big events and big wins for some, while placing small businesses and some aspects of the tourism component of the fun economy at risk. Apologies and promises of a better plan for next time arrive as the dust settles. This should be a concern into the future. If the startup scene is viewed as a Silicon Valley Part 2 or the next Silicon Valley, a Silicon Valley clone, rather than a better version of the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem we have today, we should be concerned about that. We're not going to be the next Silicon Valley. I've commented on this countless times, and I'll do it one more time here. Silicon Valley, especially if you listen to the Vegas is the next Vegas episode, I think it was 84 or 85 of this very program. So the innovation culture of Silicon Valley was organically developing itself over the course of 100 years. By the time Intel launched their first microprocessor, the 4004 in 1971, there was an existing culture of innovation. There was a talent pool. There was an actual zest for doing cool things, for developing new ideas, for being innovative. So our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem is not 100 years old. It is under development. Do we have an entrepreneurial ecosystem? Yes. Do we have an innovation ecosystem? Yes. Do we have an entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem? Sort of. I would argue that there's plenty of room to grow. We can make it better rather than placing it at risk by importing other companies and by placing existing startups and small businesses at risk through gentrification, through alterations in traffic flow, in visitor engagement, et cetera, et cetera. So any factor that can be altered to place your small business at risk, for example, seems to be on the table if you don't have a seat at that table. Speaking of tables, so the Genius Roundtable 2025, it's where all this leads. The sort of thing we can discuss and learn from. Remember I said that earlier, and then I left you hanging there. So the Genius Roundtable 2025, all of this leads to the upcoming relaunch of the Genius Roundtable coming up in 2025. Hey, it's right there in the name. Mistakes were made in our first iteration of the Roundtable, and they have been studied, and we will make other mistakes instead for this next program. But we will also reach out to a broader and more diverse group or groups of local entrepreneurs in communities of practice. Diverse meaning what you think it means, but also, and as important, diverse in business focus. So not one of the mistakes we made with the first Genius Roundtable, while everyone was entrepreneurial, there were no people that had ongoing businesses with employees, for example. Everything was a solo sort of services focus. There's nothing wrong with those, but we basically had only that as inputs to the discussion. So if we can diversify, restaurant, bar, service industry type businesses, retail, storefronts, services are a component. If you're starting a tech company, great. Is it a hardware company, a software company? Are you involved in manufacturing? Are you fulfillment businesses, warehouses, and so on? Are you in the customer service business itself as a services business? So tech support companies, et cetera. There's a whole list of things. I've only barely scratched the surface. So having people with those ongoing concerns and having begun the business, so not an employee of, but a founder of, or an entrepreneurial executor of, is important. And this will not be a chamber of commerce. It's a community of practice, multiple. At least one community of practice must be focused on retail business. See, we completely left that out of the first iteration of the Genius Roundtable. Challenges and lessons learned starting a new restaurant or beverage establishment, and how any such business can sustain itself in various conditions, dips in tourism, dips in traffic. Why did I say lower traffic? Dips in local traffic. Sorry. Yeah. Dips in local traffic. So the Vegas economy is tricky because there are 2.4 million, I think it is, residents in the greater Vegas or Clark County area. So people who already live here can visit your business. So there you have your normal competition. But when people visit, 40 million people every year, there's an opportunity for them to escape the strip. And I don't know if you know this, but if you actually talk to people who visit here, not everyone comes here to hang out on the strip. If you talk to people who go to trade shows, they're tired of it. They would like to see, oh, I didn't even know there was other stuff in Vegas. So getting people out, I said to someone one time, oh, there's an arts district right over there. See where the Stratosphere is? If you go just a little bit, like walk north of there. And he said, arts district? Sold. Like he had no idea that he could just wander over and see a normal, it's not the strip, it's not quite as glitzy and glamorous and shiny, but it's like a real arts district. So why not? So access to some of those 40 million people, how could that be accomplished and so on? These are actual discussions by actual people. And eventually we will establish a sort of a knowledge base of people who are really doing things here. Then when you have a problem with Formula One race next year, and I personally don't think it's a good idea to have Formula One the way they're doing it, now you have the basis for argument, for discussion. You've analyzed, you've discussed, you've researched, we've accumulated some data. We might even do some data analysis. So these are the sorts of discussions that are about building up and establishing, if there isn't already, from your perspective, but building up the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. Entrepreneurs, yes. Innovation, people who are doing creative things, thinking outside the box. Is the greater Vegas area the place to do that? What would help that? That said, participants in the round table, and by the way, it's round table, one word, round table, two words, is a table. Round table is a discussion group, like Knights of the Round Table, will ideally behave as entrepreneurs, and we can establish our communities of practice and how to proceed as entrepreneurs who should not be waiting to be told what to do. And that is something I've found here in Vegas as well. Some of the people who are entrepreneurial are also waiting. So those are people who may not be successful, or if they do participate, may learn something about taking initiative. And I'm not trying to be insulting, but entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs for a reason. I've literally heard entrepreneurs say, something doesn't work. When is this going to be fixed? So super busy. Yes. Entrepreneurs, do you have time for this? No, I'm trying to get my own business going. But when you are saying to the world, this is a problem and I need someone else to fix it, I would really rather hear, I'm gonna do what I can when I have some time to be a part of fixing it. I'm gonna refer this to some people I know. I'm going to tell people. I'll help with some fundraising if their funds are not merely passing the buck. So I think true entrepreneurs are always thinking about problem solving, and if the problems are causing them difficulty, even more reason to do this. So I would love to have a Genius Roundtable for 2025 made up of a diverse group of entrepreneurs in the greater Vegas area who think and act like entrepreneurs. And that is where today's episode will rest for the moment. We really need to start getting the word out to people about the Genius Roundtable 2025. So look for a little spike in mentions. We'll see what happens. Getting the word out is always a challenge if you're not blowing up a casino or murdering someone here in Vegas. And that is something that needs to change too for all small businesses. That's where I'll leave it. Take care. Cheers.